I'm Adrienne Giffen, and this is Now You're Talking. Parenting in the digital world can feel overwhelming, especially when you're balancing a career, raising teens and preteens, and trying to keep up with it all. Screens are constant, and sometimes real connection feels out of reach. This podcast is your chance to pause and breathe, a space for stories and insights that bring encouragement, perspective, and the reminder that you are not alone. Today, I'm joined by Cora and Jim Ligori, camp owners, community builders, and parents who spent decades helping teenagers grow through real-world, unplugged experiences. In our conversation, we explore what truly happens when kids step away from screens and step into nature, challenge, responsibility, and community. Cora and Jim share the lessons they've learned from raising their own children at camp, why resilience matters, how chores build confidence, and the value of listening to kids rather than fixing everything for them. We also talk about technology, family connection, the memories that shape us, and the advice they wish they could give every young adult stepping into their next chapter. It's a grounded, inspiring look at parenting, growth, and lifelong impact of camp life. Let the conversations begin. Cora and Jim, welcome to Now You're Talking. I'm so glad to have you here and to hear about your experience about running a camp full of teenagers and raising 3 children of your own. I want to hear how you're managing all of this with the complexities of the digital age.
Yeah, we're excited to talk about it.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Sure. So where do we begin? Maybe tell everybody how you got into this. Why did camp become your passion?
I think different reasons for us, but it is where we actually met at camp. But
yes,
I started in the scouting program as a youth many years ago, and started working at a scout camp when I was a teenager in high school, and it was kind of my only marketable skill growing up, and decided I wanted to branch out and try some other things, and applied to some other camps both internationally and throughout the country. Landed at one in North Carolina, and a couple years later, Cora just happened to start working at the same one.
It meant to be. Oh. And what about you, Cora?
Yeah, I grew up going to summer camps, kind of starting with, I'm from Western North Carolina. I should say that first. So people who know that area, there are 100 camps within about a 50-mile radius. So it's a big part of the culture down there. And I was lucky enough to get to go to summer camp. I was one of the most homesick kids you could imagine. Like the first year I went, I think I cried for 5 days straight. But I kept going, and my parents kept sending me, and ended up at a summer camp in Western North Carolina, ended up working on staff there. I loved it. I loved being on staff. And then I got recruited at this all-boys camp down the street, working in the kitchen, running their kitchen. And that's where I met Jim, the program director. And it was just such a fun job, and living in the community. And you could see how kids kept coming back each year. You got to know them. You got to know the staff. And we used to joke when we were dating and talking about marriage, like how fun would it be to be able to run a camp together, to be able to do this together. And we always saw the camp director's kids as having the best life ever, running around camp. Like that was their backyard, getting to go to activities and all the things. And we thought, oh, this is where we'd love to raise our kids. At one point in time, we joked that we wanted a whole cabin of kids, like 8 kids is about what in a cabin. So I remember us joking, like, let's have 8 kids, like a cabin, like we're the counselors. And 3 is about all we can do when we're managing hundreds of other people's kids as well. Yeah, it's a joy.
And so you tell us more about your camp. And did it just start from an idea? Did you start it from scratch?
No, we're lucky enough to be stewards of a legacy organization. TVRC, or Teton Valley Ranch Camp, celebrated its 87th summer this year.
Oh, really? Wow.
Became a nonprofit about 25 years ago. So the organization's nonprofit. And we started about 10 years ago at TVRC and are now the executive director and camp director.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's what amazes me, it's a teenage camp, but ages 11 to 16, you either are preteens or teens. And what is that like? And maybe you can share some sort of transformational stories that have happened to some of the kids.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's really neat about our program is it's a progressive program. So our youngest campers are 11 or 12 or 13. They're the ones that first come. We don't take any kids younger than 11, but they have to be that age to come to camp. Once they're 14, 15, 16, they've already been part of our program because so many of the skills is something that they build on each year. So we send them on age-appropriate backpacks and age-appropriate pack trips into the wilderness of Wyoming. But you don't just start summiting the Grand on your first year when you're 11. You start on trips that are something that you can do. They're hard, they're difficult, they're challenging, but they're something you can accomplish. And so the next year, when you go on another trip, it's a little harder, it's a little more steep, it's a little more miles, but you've gained so much confidence and skills from the year before. So the thing that's really neat about our program is we know our kids well, because we get to know them at 11 or 12 or 13. We get to see them grow up. And I feel like that's something that not all the camps have. We're also full, like we fill camp with 135 kids. And that may seem like a lot of kids, but
that seems like a lot of kids.
A lot of other camps, they have 400 or more a week. And so we really get to know them by name and get to just watch them come back and return each year. You know, we have about a 90 to 93% return rate each year to campers, which is pretty high. That means they're having a good time and they want to keep coming back. So then we really get to know them. As soon as their names come through with their applications, we're like, oh, yay, like Buck's coming back to camp, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like we really know our kids, which make it, I think, really unique.
And it's not just the kids, it's the families as well. As a legacy organization, we've had kids coming that are third and fourth generation TVRC campers whose parents and grandparents have come to camp. So it's really exciting to get to know the families as well.
Yeah.
And what brings these kids back? What is the secret sauce?
It's the community. I think it's the place. It's the air of adventure and challenge and overcoming, hard moments and the celebration that we have at the end of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the relationships, that always comes back. The friendships is what so many of our campers say. They're always interested in like who signed up and who's going to be my counselor and who's in my cabin.
Yeah.
And it's like that for like generations, I feel like this last year. And I think even this coming year, we have staff members where at least 3 of the sets of parents met on staff at Teton Valley Ranch Camp. So it's just something that they grew up like having that as part of their life. And now it's their legacy to carry on.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, the relationships keep building too. Those groups of kids, when they leave camp, that cabin group is still usually a very strong cabin group, and they stay connected to each other throughout life and are there to support each other in both celebratory and challenging moments, weddings, funerals, all those things. We hear that those groups of people move together through life. And so being just a small part of that is such an honor in it.
Yes. So fast forward, what have you heard from some of the campers that how it's changed their lives, how this experience has changed them?
There's so many stories to even pinpoint. I'll try to pinpoint a couple that I can think of. I have campers who will reach out to me and they will share like an entry essay that they have written to get into a top college. And it's been about like hiking a certain like peak or, some experience that they have. And one that I just got the other day was a camper who last year she aged out of our program. So she came for several years. She was a camper. Last year she was a trailblazer, and that's our oldest group. So they spend most of the time on the trail. And she goes to a wonderful private school, and she's a senior. And so she did her senior speech. And almost the entire speech was about her experience at Teton Valley Ranch Camp and about the challenges that she overcame. And one in particular was this hike to Darwin. And so she was with her group, her cabin group, and they were hiking. They were trying to summit this mountain. And It had been tough. This is not like the first day of this trip. This is like the third day, getting up early, going up, wanting to give up, but like continuing through and then being able to get to the top as a group, hold hands, look at the view. And she says she draws on that experience whenever she has a challenge in life, whether it's a challenge at school or a challenge socially or just anything. She thinks about that moment and draws on that to say, I have the ability, I have the resilience to get through this challenge because I did that. And then just remembers like how that sense of accomplishment felt. And her mom, they filmed that. Her mom sent it to me on Monday. So I got to watch it. Of course, tear up a little bit because this is just one of the numbers that I saw. And her first year when she came, she was like, I don't think I'm ever coming back. This is hard. And then so to see her come back each year and then, stay in touch. Like they stay in touch and they say, hey, I told my entire school this story and I want you to know that I'm still talking about my time at Teton Valley Range Camp.
Oh my goodness. And you mentioned that the camp experience helps build grit and resilience. And in your own children, could you share a little bit about that? How there is an overlap?
With my own kids. Well, we're still working on the grit and resilience with our kids.
But they get to see behind the curtain a little bit. And they, my peer camp directors will say, you will probably sympathize with this. They're like, why do I have to be a part of TVRC? When you're responsible for so many kids, it feels like maybe you don't care about me as much, or you're spending so much time with other people's children. What about me? So, we have to be able to balance that and think through that. Work through that as well. We spend a lot of time with them in the off season. So that's really it. But they're with us at camp and running around and doing the things, helping wash dishes and pet horses and cause problems.
Yeah.
and what is the horse experience? Because is it all a horse? It's a horse riding camp. Is that it?
It's not primarily horse riding. We do a lot of horseback riding, but we do a lot of other stuff as well. So every camper will ride horses. They'll participate in at least one backcountry horsepacking trip where they are on a horse for 3 or 4 days consecutively in the backcountry. And then we also do weekly rodeos as well, where campers sign up for rodeo events and then participate in those events. And we keep tally. And at the end of the season, we do a rodeo king or a rodeo queen for the campers that have accumulated the most rodeo points by winning different rodeo events. So, but it's definitely, there's a lot of horse activities, but it's not solely a horse-focused camp. We actually have a fair amount of kids that prefer to not really ride horses, and we'll do other things. They'll focus on the fishing and the backpacking and some of those pieces as well.
Yeah. So how are you as parents then? How are you managing, bring in the digital world and all the complexities of that, running a business and all the complexities of that, and then raising 3 kids? How are you managing all of that?
Yeah. TVRC is a technology-free program, so we don't allow any campers to have any kind of technology outside of a battery-powered flashlight at camp. Staff members have a little bit more leniency, but, they're instructed to keep it outside of the cabin. That has to be on their time and in their space and away from kids. We encourage campers to write letters home. Parents have some more connection to us. We do post photos daily where they can log on and see those photos. They can write an email to a camper that we will print out and give to a camper. A camper can respond via written letter, and then we will email that back to the parent. So there is a little bit of the digital piece like peeking in, but I think we've insulated that pretty well from the camp community, from the campers themselves.
Yeah.
I'd say.
And for our own kids, I'll speak to our kids. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Haidt. We've had the privilege of meeting him. Even before Anxious Generation came out, he was a keynote speaker at a camp conference that we attended, and we're a big part of that organization. And so we had an opportunity to meet him before that book came out. And actually, we're sent a free copy of the book the day that it came out. I read it. I've read it probably 4 times, given it to many people. If anyone hasn't read The Anxious Generation, I highly recommend it. But the idea is a lot of the reason we have so much anxiety in our young people, it is connected to too much time on phones, smartphones specifically, just where they have all of this digital access to their pockets. And a big part of it is they're spending more time online than they are face-to-face interactions. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he really has encouraged, and luckily, we found out about it at a good time, because I think the time that you start implementing this stuff is really important. but we have delayed giving our kids anything.
Mm-hmm.
And none of our children, including our 13-year-old daughter, have cell phones or Apple Watches or anything. And we really limit the screens and their connection. No social media. I don't even know when I'm going to introduce social media, but no social media. But for now, no cell phones as well.
And how does that work? I don't know if your kids are in a regular school or homeschool.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's resistance, or you're getting resistance from because other kids have it?
Yeah.
Always want. Yeah. It's a challenge.
It's a great question. I think at one point in time, I think there was a little bit of a fight. And I think maybe we live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and there are a lot of other parents who are aware of these things too. So I think the other piece is just that a lot of the friends of our daughter are also, their parents are delayed.
Okay. Oh, that helps.
And so I think that's really helped. I mean, I will, if my daughter wants to call a friend, she can use my phone, and use my phone for that and then give my phone back. And so we're not limiting the conversations. Whenever I have her friends over to spend the night, though, I have a rule, and they can't have their cell phones when they're coming to spend the night, because then it's not a cell phone free play date or sleepover. It becomes like you're sitting on the phone and not interacting with each other anymore. So I tell the moms that, you can send it, but I'd like to keep it for now. And the parents are like, oh, I think that's great. And so they can always send me a message if they need to get in touch. But our kids have gotten really creative. Our daughter has figured out she can email us from her laptop or her iPad at school. So she'll send me messages that way about change of plans. But we haven't had any issues with it. But we're also in a community that I think embraces it a little bit more than maybe some of the other ones.
Yes, so that would certainly help, because then you're not getting as much resistance. Right. So thinking what you know now as camp, as owners, and you've seen these kids transition, and as parents, knowing what you know now, what would you do again? And what would you do differently?
Good question. We went down the electronics road a little bit, and then made a hard 180 and retreated from that. We probably wouldn't do that again. Yeah. We'd definitely stay stronger on the front end.
Yeah.
We're not going to do these things. I think that's the biggest one I can think of.
That's the biggest one. And the example he's saying is, my daughter really wanted to listen to Spotify, and she wanted to have music. And so we took an old cell phone and cleared it and only had Spotify on it and gave it to her. And she loved that. But then kids are smart. And so they can figure out how to download things and add things to it. Mm-hmm. And so we discovered this and decided we were fighting more about it and deleting things off than it was worth it. It actually created more fights than fixing it. We ended up backpedaling and taking the cell phone back and just, actually destroying it so that it couldn't be found or anything like that, and then replacing it with something. It's a music player only, and it's called Campfire, and it only has Spotify. So yeah, interesting. I could make a plug for that. It works really great.
Yes.
So you can stream your Spotify music, but there is nothing else that's connected to it. It works very well. And the kids love that because they can listen to their music or listen to audiobooks, and they can access all of that, but there's no other apps that are on it. So
interesting.
So we backpedaled. And I think my advice to parents, I've heard lots of parents say, well, we gave it already. It's already too late. And I guess my advice for parents is it's really never too late to make a change.
I think the other piece is we still have to maintain boundaries of music player has to go off at 9:00 at night. We're expecting you to go to bed, and we're not doing these things at moments you should be focusing on homework or chores or other pieces. If you want to wash the dishes and listen to music, that's fine, but it's not retreat into your bedroom with the music player and just have it all night long either.
Right. So they're used to those boundaries. And because you've got such a wide age range and your kids, that your two youngest see your 13-year-old doing all these things. And so that's tricky because there has to be a balancing act.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And but who knew? So we will put that campfire in the show notes for people. Is it just an app or what is it?
It's an actual device. I think it's called Campfire Player.
Okay.
But there's starting to be more of them now. I think there's one called like the Yodo or Yoto Player that's similar. It might be more geared for younger kids. The Campfire Player seems to work better for teenagers. It's more device-esque, I guess.
Well, and if Apple is listening to this, I think they need to bring back the iPod. I thought that was one of the best inventions of all time. I mean, maybe just the iPod that plays Spotify music that does like more of the streaming things versus buying MP4s. But I just feel like so many kids love music and I don't like limiting music. I remember listening to my CDs or our radio and having like our little boom box, back in the 90s in my bedroom, and that was never limited. So I appreciate the plain music.
Yeah, me too. It can take us back in time.
Yes.
To when we were teenagers, no matter what decade. I'm a lot older than you, but I get that for sure. So that's what you do differently. What would you do the same? Talk about some really positive things that you've done and raising your kids, but also because your camp deals with that tricky, 11 to 16 age. What inspiration can you give to other parents?
I think one thing that we do, and I think we do it really well, and I would highly recommend parents to do this, is we have dinner every night together as a family. And we sit around a table, we eat our food, we have our blessing, we spend our time together. And it's just such a good time. Even sometimes it's only 30 minutes time together because they're like little and they want to go do other things. But we have that time together. We don't have our cell phones out. We're not at the table. We're not answering phone calls. We're just spending time as a family. And I think that time is such a precious time. And I highly recommend people do that. That's something that we do at camp too, that I think really brings community together, is we have 3 meals a day, 10 people sitting at a table, like 2 counselors, the rest kids, and they're having conversations over food. And I think it really brings community together. And I know families are so busy and they're going to hockey practice and they're going to play practice and they're doing all of the things. But I think if you could really sit down and have those times together, I think it's great. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can try to have conversations like, what did you guys do today at school? And they say, nothing. And we actually have, it's very similar to your game. So we can talk about that a little bit more, but we have like a box of questions that we can pull out and we can just ask a question and everyone gets an opportunity to ask a question and they love that. Sometimes they want to do 2 or 3 and everyone gets an opportunity to talk around the table. So it's just a way that the whole family can connect together.
I'd say the other thing that I think is important is establishing like chores and routines for our kids as well. I think it's important that they see that they're part of the household and part of, our little cabin, if you will. And they're able to do things to build their responsibilities. So things as simple as, making their bed and cleaning their room and holding them accountable to that and keeping that going, because that, I think, builds good habits for life, but also shows that they're a part of our family and that we're not going to do everything for them, that they need to take some initiative and do some other things as well. I mean, that's, I think, going back to TVRC is like the ability to accomplish challenging tasks, I think, is really the secret sauce of TVRC. And I think that starts very young of like, I know I can make my bed. I know I can wash the dishes. I know I can climb that mountain and, do these other things too. So.
Yes. I mean, I'm interested to know because I also believe in chores, and my kids every Saturday morning we would do chores, and they chose their chore, but every Saturday morning they would do it. Do you give an allowance for that, or do you just expect it?
We kind of do both. We do have an allowance every week that we give them, and it is linked to like, do they get all their tasks done? Have they finished all of their things? And also kind of going back, maybe this is a lot of being the camp director stuff. We do use technology. We use computers. We use all of that at work. But at home, I do a lot of pen and paper or a lot of checklists. So I actually bought a magnet that's like a chore chart that, you put the label maker, like make my bed, like get my agenda signed, like, and I have all that there, and they actually physically check it off. I know some people do digital things that they do, but I just resist all of that. I want them to see it written, and they have to be the one to check off that they did their chores.
Well, isn't that great? And it's sort of front and center in a place in your home.
It's on the fridge.
Yeah. That would build sort of a competitiveness too, amongst the siblings. Which is probably an okay thing
if it works. I mean, we have two kids that are very not competitive at all, and one that is super competitive. So he's always checking it off, and the other two are like, we'll get there.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, having your child pick the chores, and I think that's important. There's some that we assign that they all have to do. They all have to make their beds. They all have to clean their rooms. But when they can pick their chores about, I'm going to shovel the walk, or I'm going to take the dog out, or I'm going to do these other things. I remember, our middle child loved washing windows, and they were only clean from about his head down, but they were clean. And he would go around and he would wash windows, and would have to go back and wash the top half. But he loved washing windows. It's like, great, that's an easy one that he can do.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. What I would like to do is transition into asking you some questions. And from now you're talking. And so this has cards, but what I did was create a board game. So there is a start and there is a finish, and it does create that sort of that competitiveness. In this game, you go down with adversity and up with growth and change. So it's sort of taking snakes and ladders and the game of life, because we all have a lot of both of those things in our life. So I'm going to ask both of you, what is your favorite childhood memory and why?
It's hard to pinpoint a favorite one for me. I mean, I feel like I had an amazing childhood growing up in Wyoming, but the holiday moments or getting to spend some quality time with my father, I think was always important to me and seems special. There's a lot of memories I have with my father and I, in the backcountry camping or doing those things that really kind of stick out in my mind, I think. It's a little bit generalized, but I think that's kind of where I'd go.
And you, Cora, I want to talk to that, Jim. Yeah.
One that just comes to my mind, and for a reason specifically, I've mentioned this to my kids. So back in the late 90s, rollerblading was a big deal. So this would have been around the time I was 11, 12, 13, 14, before I got my license and stuff. But a group of friends would come to my house because I lived really close to the downtown area of my small town. We'd put rollerblades on and we would just go rollerblading. It would be 6 to 8 of us, and we'd just go all over town. One of my best friends still today was one of those girls, and she said one day, can you believe our parents let us do that? Can you believe they just let us do that? And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, why not? What is a more safe way to go and have some freedom than with a group like that? Would anyone really have pulled up and tried to pull one of us in the car? Or there's such a safety with numbers, and there was such a free play and a sense that we were free and that we had all of this time together without adults watching every second. And so It was a sense of freedom, but it was still relatively safe. And I think another thing that John Heights talked about is we now are so concerned about physical safety and what we perceive as physically safe for kids. But then we might just hand them a cell phone or some computer in their room with the door closed, and that's not safe at all. And that we have this, they're physically safe, so they're fine. But are they truly safe? Because we've just given them access to all of this stuff. So I want to fight back a little with society and just say, I think we need to go back and, have more of a Sandlot mentality. My favorite movie of all time, Sandlot. I think we need a Sandlot childhood back again for kids.
Yes.
And summer camp is just a great way to do that because it is this perceived independence, but we also have a lot of safeguards around that. So they can feel like they're kind of in this risky place without their parents watching them. But then we put a lot of, safeguards and some supervision around that too.
Yeah. And that's what I give. So when I hear what you said, Jim, about your favorite moments or camping with your dad, well, you're recreating these favorite moments for all these young people, which is amazing because I always believe our passion is always connected somehow to where we've come from. And you, Cora, you are creating roller skating moments. Or rollerblading, but roller skating moments. I grew up with roller skates for these young people too, because you are giving them the freedom, like you said, there's safeguards, but their perception is that they're independent. And so it's a direct connection to where you are now. What do you know now, and this is to both of you, that you wish you knew in your teenage years?
I know what I would say. I think when you're a teenager, you care so much more about what other people think about you. And you don't think so much about what you think about you. And you worry about like what that person thinks about your outfit, or what that person thinks about what school you've chosen to go to, or how you did in a sports event. And then really when you get older, and I think one of the joys of getting older and more mature is that you just care about what other people think so much less, and you find so much more joy from that. And, dealing with like an 8th grader in our home right now, and like this is really becoming a big thing, like what other people think or the challenges. I just think it'd be so freeing to be able to just let them know, like, this seems like it's a really big deal right now, but no one will remember this later. Like no one will care when, you're in your 40s. Like about this one thing that happened or that you said, or this embarrassing thing that happened. Like it just isn't as important as you think.
Yeah, I think that's good. I was kind of thinking more of like challenging moments and tough times when you're a teenager, like will end and things will get better and you will move on. And kind of in that same vein, like the adults in my life that were giving me advice that maybe I should have listened to that a little bit more. Like they really did know what they were talking about.
That's a good one.
I know it is tough though, isn't it? When we're in it and it's so difficult, but it's only looking back that we get this level of wisdom.
Yeah, the aha moments.
Yes, exactly. Almost we have to go through this pain in order to get to the other side of it. And when we play this, and I've played this, now you're talking with many, many, many people, but when I play it with generations and different generations, it's quite magical to interact, to see the interaction. And what I find is that parents often try to rescue their kids when there's a silent, but what kids come out with is so much more insightful than what we are going to say. It's incredible to me to experience that. And you must experience that probably when you're asking your own kids questions around the dinner table.
Absolutely. Well, and I think a lot of times, we as adults are so quick to answer for kids.
Yes.
And a lot of time they just need us to listen. And we train our staff, even though they were kids more recently than we were kids, you still have to go through a staff training. And most of the time is don't feel the awkward silence. Don't, if they're struggling or having an issue or they're trying to solve a problem, they don't come to you because they want you to fix the problem for them. They want you to be a sounding board. They want you to like listen and think about what they're saying. And then if they come up with something, maybe help them or just say, yeah, I actually think that might work. When you want to try that, is there a way I can support you? Versus trying to bail them out and solve the problem every time. I think that's what gets really frustrating for them when they're talking to adults and they feel like the adults are just constantly nagging at them. Is it that they're nagging or they're just trying to solve their problem for them too quick?
Right. Yes. And then I think back to what you said about that young girl who was doing the valedictorian speech and she had to go through that difficult time to get, and so then she can replay that in her mind. That's very powerful. One more question. I don't want to let you guys go. What advice would you give to high school graduates today? It's sort of the same, but if you can come up with something a little bit different.
My advice would be like work and adult life is always going to be there. Like don't let the last few years of your, childhood, teenage years, young adulthood, like go to waste. Like now's the time to go do fun and crazy, adventurous things. Like don't worry about that internship in college in 2 or 3 years. Don't focus, on, the sports coach that says you've got to be there for every single practice and every single game, or you're never going to be a professional, whatever. Like go have fun and be a kid still. Don't lose that too early. That would be my advice.
That's 100%. I agree. We see our staff members or former campers come back and be on staff, or new people come and be on staff, and we always see this fight in their mind. Like, do I keep coming back and having life-changing experiences in the Tetons, on the trail, spending time with these kids, or should I go get this real job and get my insurance and like get an apartment and settle down? And I'd say that when they continue to come back, they never regret it. But I've heard from so many people, like, I just gave up that time too quickly. You know, there's always time for like the mortgage and the, the 9-to-5 jobs.
They always feel like, I remember this too. Like, I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be considered an adult. I wanted to like be there. And I think they rush through that like late young adulthood phase a little too quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I call those the freedom years. Yeah. Free. And we don't know we're in them until we are no longer in them. And then I look back and they're gone. And once you've let go of those freedom years, they're hard to pull back because you have all these responsibilities. So, words of wisdom. What are some words of wisdom that you can share that will help other parents on their journey, please?
I mean, the one that I always like to say, and I mean, it's more telling parents this, but also knowing that parents can tell their kids this too. It's something we say all the time, is you can do hard things. Things can be challenging and it can be so easy just to want to give up. But when you push through those moments, those are the moments that real growth comes and real resilience and change. And that's where characters develop, is through those hard moments. I always say it's really safe to just lay on a couch and watch a movie all morning. And that can be fun. And sometimes we need that. But there's no growth that's going to happen through that. It's through the actual challenges that we see kids really grow. And then that's when they feel like they've really accomplished something. The easy things are not, that won't be remembered. It's the hard things that are remembered. So I'd say the same thing for parents too, but it's a good way to remind kids. It's something we tell our staff as well, and I'll say this to kids, is you never do something for a kid that they can do for themselves, and you never want to do something for a kid that they can almost do for themselves.
That was mine.
Whoa.
Stole mine.
Sorry, they kind of go together a little bit.
They do, absolutely. But that idea of, not doing things for your kids that they can almost do for themselves is the key aspect to setting up growth mindset in children. And it's the little things too. And it starts very young. You help your kids tie their shoes. It's okay if they knot it and totally ruin the laces and you have to get some scissors to cut it out. But, they're learning in every step of that. And Jonathan Haidt in his book talks about kids being able to cut like a piece of steak with a knife.
Yes.
Those little things are where this starts. Like, those are the things that I'd encourage parents to not do for their children.
Yeah, to not rescue them.
Yeah, like save those for the bigger moments when you really need to be there for as a parent. But like, don't do the little things for your kids that they can do. Making their bed, putting their clothes in the hamper, tying shoes, cutting meat, like those simple things. Like, let those kids figure that out.
Okay. And because those are those foundational moments, aren't they? And you said, Jim, the growth mindset. Well, and those are simple things that we can do when we allow ourselves the courage, or have the courage sometimes as parents to let our kids fail. Well, yeah, and keep trying. Thank you very much, Cora and Jim, for being part of this and for sharing your words of wisdom. It's just it's very inspiring, and what you're doing is the ripple effect of what you're doing by providing this opportunity for kids. It's not only going to help the children themselves, but it's going to help their families and be an inspiration for their friends. So just know that you're doing great things and certainly making the world a better place.
Thank you very much. One thing we have to tell you, because we really like the idea of your game, and one of the things that our campers do at the end of every day is they get with their cabin group and they sit in a circle, and they have something we call circle, where they ask one of these questions really similar to what you're asking, and they each get to go around and share, and they have to listen with respect, and they have to listen to everybody, and each person gets a turn, and they have to speak from the heart. And it's those moments that I think really draw a group together. And a lot of campers will say it's those moments as a cabin where they feel like they have like their best friend. And so anyway, I love the idea of your similarities to lots of camps.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Well, it will be available at the beginning of 2026. And so I will let you know now that we're connected. But what you're saying, Cora, is it's when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. That's when we can connect, because we're all vulnerable. But when we have the courage to be vulnerable with one another, that's where lasting bonds live.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's also how you can overcome challenges, when you can reflect on those tough moments and say, that was really hard, but now I'm more prepared to do this next time.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you. And I look forward to future conversations.
Absolutely.
We look forward to it too. Thank you so much.
What an incredible conversation with Cora and Jim. Two people who understand on the deepest level how community challenge and connection shape a young person's life. Their insights remind us that kids grow stronger when they're trusted, that responsibility builds independence, and that some of the most important learning happens when we step away from screens and return to real human experiences. From chores and family dinners to technology boundaries and the freedom of the outdoors, their stories offer both practical wisdom and heartfelt reassurance. I hope this episode encourages you to create more intentional moments with your kids. Trust their capacity to do hard things and rediscover the kind of connection that lasts. Thank you for listening and for being part of this community of parents, leaders, and humans who believe in raising future generations with courage, curiosity, and heart. You've been listening to Now You're Talking, parenting with a busy career while guiding kids through the lure of screens isn't easy, but meaningful connection is always worth it. Take a moment to start a conversation with someone you care about. It could be the highlight of their day. Until next time, let the conversations begin. Now you're talking.
I'm Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Adrienne Giffen's Now You're Talking podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more high vibe shows like hers, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com and grab your free gift from our gift vault from all of our hosts. Until then, stay high vibe.